Hello, Commit229 here. There were other videos that I wanted to make, but then this stupid Suicide Squad game came out, and then I have to talk about it because, oh my gosh, it's somehow worse than I even thought it was ever going to be.
Ah, the propaganda arm of capitalism.
Like, I knew it was bad when they announced it, because this whole push for the Suicide Squad is stupid. But, like, I knew it was going to be bad. Then when they announced it was going to be, like, live service, okay, everyone was like, okay, so it's going to be pretty bad. So we were kind of coasting on that for a while. Then we got the leaks of just how bad it was going to be treating the Justice League. And they were just going to brutally murder Batman. You know, the Arkham Batman that everyone loves.
What the hell is that?
And I knew it was going to be bad. But then the game came out. And when you have full context, it's even worse. How do you make a game this bad? Like, I know DC makes a lot of stupid decisions. They've been making stupid decisions for decades. But I can't even fathom who thought it was a good idea to have a game about brutally murdering their most popular heroes. Especially doing it in the Arkhamverse, which, I mean, it's not like this game cares about continuity. I mean, it tries to be in continuity, but then, oh my gosh, I don't want to go into all the stupid details. Because the more I was looking into this game, the more it was just pissing me off. Okay, so we have what are very clearly just shills attempting to defend this crappy game. And we know that big companies will pay people to actually just go online and argue. This has been something that has been proven, so there's no reason to believe that Warner Brothers wouldn't do this same thing. Especially because I did not see any of these incredibly dedicated defenders until after the leaks of Batman's death came online. After that, it was like you had all these people suddenly staking their life on defending this game. And to be fair, with stuff like The Last Jedi and The Last of Us 2 having very, very dedicated defenders, there's always going to be a group of contrarians who want to like something that's bad. But I wouldn't be surprised if Warner Brothers had a hand in pushing the defense because they desperately didn't want that bad press. But the people who are coming out to defend this is insane. It's like, because no one was defending this until the leaks came out. And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of people going, how dare you criticize this game? What do you gain from defending this? I mean, if they're being paid, I understand, but if you're not being paid to defend this game, you have a pathetic life.
The hell is a Terminaut?
How about we Terminaut go find out? Eh? Eh? Ah, this is bullshit.
There's been one real consistent defense of this game to try to silence any criticism, where it's like, the game is called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, so, like, of course you're killing the Justice League. You're an idiot for complaining about killing the Justice League, so, it's called Kill the Justice League. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. That is such a non-defense, for a lot of reasons. Okay, yes, it's called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The subtitle of the game is literally Kill the Justice League. That doesn't mean they had to. Just because it's a title in the game doesn't mean you have to say, yeah, we have to kill the game. You picked this title, right? And now you're like, oh, well, I mean, the title exists, so we gotta do it. No, the title does not justify it. Saying that the title exists, therefore you have to kill the Justice League, is like, okay, so if this game was called Suicide Squad, a pile of crap, and then someone said, oh, that's a pile of crap, and you go, excuse me, it's called Suicide Squad, a pile of crap, you can't criticize it, duh. That's basically what this sounds like. But a couple of things, really. One, they didn't have to do that. So the setup can be, oh, you're going to, oh, the Justice League has gone crazy, you need to kill them and stop them from doing bad stuff. And then you can, like, okay, so your mission is to kill the Justice League. And then you find out, oh no, they're being brainwashed by Brainiac. And you might say, alright, so then that changes our mission to, alright, now let's save the Justice League. But they're bad guys. Okay, first of all, you can come up with a reason why they wouldn't kill them. It could be entirely self-interest. right? It could be, we'll get accolades, or our records will be expunged if we save the Justice League, or it could be something as simple as, I want Superman to owe me a favor. It could be something as simple as that.
Or it can be that Amanda Waller orders them to bring the Justice League in alive, or she blows their heads off.
And another thing is, this is not a new idea. I'm copying this from something else. Specifically, The World Ends With You. So if you play The World Ends With You, the title is specifically referring to, like, the idea that, with the main character being very much an isolated, loner, he doesn't like interacting with people. The world ends with you, right? That's all that really matters, is you, right? And then he goes through development. I guess this is kind of spoilers. It doesn't really, spoil the plot. Go play The World Ends With You. But at the end of the game, after the main character has gone through all of his development and he learns to connect with other people, the title at the end changes to The World Begins With You. So no longer is it about, okay, the world ends with you and that's it. That's this little bubble. This is all that matters. It's just me. No. It starts with you and then you have the whole world. Because it was reflecting a meaningful change in the main character. You could have literally had the Suicide Squad game be like, it starts off with kill the Justice League, and then at the end of the game it changes to saved the Justice League. And that could be like the title screen after you beat the game or something. And it can show that they're the ones who saved the day, and for once these villains actually got to be the good guys, and they got accolades or whatever, right? There's ways you can do this. Second of all, and there's another way you could have done this. You could have actually had an option to spare the members. It's a very simple idea, but something that even ChatGPT thought of. Because someone put in the main premise of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and ChatGPT, a soulless machine, understood the importance of killing the Justice League and adds in an option to spare them. Because even a soulless machine, which is just mashing together different ideas that it's fed, understands this better than the writers. Now, I would never in my life promote AI as being used for actual writings or to replace actual writers. But I do think it's important to see that if you have these so-called professional writers, and you have a literal robot that can produce the most basic, this is literally the most basic idea. If that is better than what these professional writers are saying, you need to get better writers. Because if the idea of a Suicide Squad game where you fight the Justice League can have a better setup from freaking ChatGPT, you suck as writers. So yeah, again, we should never have AI replace actual writers. But if the AI is actually coming up with stuff that's better than what these so-called professionals are putting out, then maybe they shouldn't be working on it. But if you put in an option to spare the Justice League so that, if you kill all the Justice League members, you actually get the worst ending. Okay, seems interesting. And then if you spare the members, then you get a good ending. So let's say you spared everyone, then you would have all of the Justice League backing you up to fight Brainiac, and you get this good ending where the Suicide Squad get all this accolades and stuff, and it's very simple. This is not new. These types of choices have been in games for a very long time. So it really says something that a game like the Suicide Squad, which has been in development for the better part of a decade, couldn't even put in basic stuff. The death scenes are all stupid and disrespectful, except for Wonder Woman, who this game shills to hell and back.
She was the only member of the Justice League who resisted the corruption. All the way to the end. For weeks, she has been our champion. Our greatest hope. And maybe the strongest force for good that Metropolis has ever known.
And even her death scene is the only one given any kind of gravitas or respect.
It's justice.
Don't try to talk.
And I'll be diving into the deaths later. Don't you worry. That is a rabbit hole.
But even with all that crap, if you gave people the option to spare them so that they at least got to live, and that they could choose to avoid those bad scenes, there would be a lot less problems with this game. Which, by the way, I'm not going to even be touching all of the performance issues and the bugs and all the crap that comes with it being an always online game constantly shutting down. I won't be touching on that, right? It's too much. Other people are talking about that. Go check them out. But it actually would have been interesting at least to have a couple of different endings where you can say, oh, alright, the bad ending and the good ending. And like maybe if you kill all the Justice League members at the end and you fight and defeat Brainiac and you're thinking, whew, we did it. And then like the end can have like Darkseid show up and he's like, hell yeah, Justice League is gone. And that could be like a kind of a joke, be like, oh yeah, crap, we just killed the Justice League. Oops. There are ways you could have even done the same concept. I mean, freaking Operation Raccoon City, a game that no one really likes in the Resident Evil fandom, which allows you to kill like Claire and Leon during Resident Evil 2, gives you the option to kill or spare them.
Why are you doing this? For Umbrella? Money? What's in it for you, huh?
And Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League can't even manage that? This type of choice just seems very basic, that even something like that game figured out. Now, there's another way they could have handled this, and they could have actually had a genuinely evil Justice League. It could have been the Crime Syndicate, it could have been the Justice Lords, and they could have come in from another universe. Since they're already doing the multiverse stuff in this game, you could have had them come in, and maybe the Justice League is busy somewhere, or they're captured, or whatever. So you're still killing the Justice League, it's just different ones. Now, I learned about this after the fact, but this is basically the plot of LEGO DC Supervillains.
Owlman, Superwoman, Grid, Johnny Quick, Power Ring, and Sea King.
There's something really familiar about these guys.
We're here to help. We come from a...
Skip to the end. Joker's getting away.
Your entire planet is in terrible danger due to a threat from our world.
What threat?
Us!
Cheese and crackers!
Where you actually have the villains end up fighting the Crime Syndicate. It just, look, if you're gonna kill them, at least have it be like actual evil ones. Like we had the Justice Lords from the Justice League cartoon, you have the Crime Syndicate, you could actually have these bad guys from an alternate universe be the ones you kill. And it's like, no one really cares if you kill them. In fact, there would be a lot of people who wouldn't even really care if they disrespected these just evil versions. Now, obviously, you'd still have to treat this with a degree of respect and some kind of gravitas. But if they pissed on the corpse of, like, an evil Flash who is just evil and not the actual, like, Flash that we know, a lot of people really wouldn't have as much of an issue. But there are so many solutions to this. There's so many ways you could have done this same premise without pissing everyone off. Yeah, so that defense of, oh, well, it's called this. Okay, yes, but they still could have done this same premise, but better. And even then, with all of that, even with those deaths, you can still have a degree of respect. Because a lot of people are like, well, the villains are bad guys. Why do you care that Captain Boomerang is pissing on the Flash's corpse? Okay, a number of reasons. First of all, these are the characters we care about. And the game is portraying this as funny, goofy stuff. Because when Captain Boomerang whips out his dick to piss on the Flash, because they kind of set up, like, King Shark is going to be like, oh, man, we should actually have some respect here. And then it turns into a dick joke where everyone congratulates Captain Boomerang on having a big dick. No, if you think I'm making that up, I swear to God I'm not.
As honorable warriors, we will show proper respect to this fallen hero by...
Show a little class, man. Holy shit. Congratulations.
And it's even more insane because, I admit, I'm not a massive Flash fan, I'm a Batman fan. We'll get to him. Especially engaging in conversations with people who are like Flash fans. Yeah, the Flash's Rogues Gallery actually have a pretty decent amount of respect for him. Like, yes, you know, Batman typically tries to help his rogues, but Flash actually has a pretty darn good relationship with his Rogues Gallery.
Talk while you still have a jaw.
Hey! Would you guys please take it down a notch? Let me handle this. James, you're off your meds, aren't you?
I'm better off without him. Take him if I start feeling down.
You know that's not how the medicine works. You're not well.
I'm fine. You want to throw some darts?
Listen, James, you're wearing the suit again.
I am? Well, what do you know?
Tell me where those guys went, and I promise to come see you in the hospital. We'll play darts.
Okay. They're gonna ambush you at the Flash Museum.
See? That's all we needed.
What about your enemy?
Oh, right. Dude, as soon as you finish your drink, turn yourself in.
Got me again, Flash.
And we even actually have a literal scene from one of the classic comics where you have Captain Boomerang and Trickster finding the Flash's dead body. And the comic makes a point to have Captain Boomerang try to treat this with a little bit of respect. That's whiplash compared to what we get in here.
We're gonna give you the content you love.
Liar! And people are like, well, it's not the same version of the character. Okay, this new version sucks. I actually think it's far more interesting to have Captain Boomerang show respect for the Flash's corpse. Be like, okay, right, this guy was like my main nemesis, but like, this is a big deal. Like, and the thing is, it's trying so hard to be wacky, goofy, silly, but then they also want to do like really dark stuff, and I'm like, you can't do that, right? If you want to kill the Justice League, you can at least try to be respectful about it, especially because within the Arkhamverse, this is the first time we're actually having the Justice League, because apparently it's establishing that within this canon, the Justice League didn't exist until after Arkham Knight. People are like, that fixes the problems. Okay, it doesn't fix the problem that no one else showed up to help, especially when so much crap was going on in Gotham. But whatever, you can at least show some respect when this is the first time we're actually seeing this universe's version of the Justice League.
Isn't Deadshot supposed to be white?
Aren't you supposed to be shutting your damn mouth? Kangaroo-looking ass.
Because you are Australian.
So now that I've gone over some more general stupidity of this game, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about some of the writing in this game. I won't be going over literally everything, or we'd be here all day. But there are some things in this game that just bother me. The actual, like, character writing, the dialogue, the banter, all of it is bad. Like, the best way I can describe it is, imagine the Joker from Arkham Knight, right? All those hallucinations where he's constantly babbling on over and over with unfunny dialogue, interrupting serious scenes. Take that, crank it up to 100, and it's every scene. Every bit of dialogue is terrible.
Waller, be advised Lex is AWOL in a power suit, and Ivy's an eco-terrorist middle schooler. Deadshot out.
How'd we end up hugging a giant plant? I have allergies. Anyone care?
All the characters are unbearable. Even Harley, who Harley in the previous games, well, she wasn't like a massive player, and she was always playing second fiddle to Joker, and even in Arkham Knight, she was just trying to avenge Joker. She was never unbearable. Harley is unbearable in this game.
Harley, do not touch us.
But you saying I can't really makes me want to, you know?
No!
Harley, no!
Worth it.
It's like the voice acting is weird, and these are not bad voice actors. And I guess it's like a combination of like the voice direction and the terrible dialogue, where every single character is annoying. King Shark, oh my gosh, they want King Shark to be Drax so bad, it's painful.
What are you doing, mate?
I'm smiling.
Kangaroo-looking ass.
Because you are Australian.
Captain Boomerang, he is so, oh my gosh, just listen to some of his dialogue.
Isn't Deadshot supposed to be white? I'm not gonna make a big deal of it.
Oh, thanks. We really appreciate it.
But I've prepared a speech. It's necessarily long. Take a seat, Sharky. I know you love the dramatic stuff.
I really do.
To my massive and disappointingly male fan base. Sure, let's find dead Lex in Dead Metropolis. A really hope he's dead.
Come on, live in the moment, Boomer.
Well, we only went and did it, you bloody beauties! We killed Superman! Hell, we murdered the whole Justice League! In self-defense, since they were all totally evil. Yeah. Does it look different to anyone? A little scared, maybe?
I do not think it can show micro-expressions. Like me.
Justice? Oh, more like bloody hall of bullshit!
Nice.
Got a point, though. Justice for people like them. Not a lot of justice for people like us.
And Deadshot. Gosh, Deadshot's just annoying. All these characters are unbearable. Even Amanda Waller is unbearable.
In my home, Father would never...
I'm your daddy now, Shark. That goes for all of you.
And Rick Flag, I guess he's there. Though, to be fair to Rick Flag, even though he's pretty bland most of the time, he's the only character that I found that wasn't unbearable. And he did have about the only decent scene in the entire game.
Hey kid, want to meet a penguin man? Get you a greenhouse all to yourself?
I don't like penguins.
You know what? I get it. You're tired and cranky. Honestly, these four make me feel the same way. Come on, let's get you out of here.
Okay.
The best thing I can say about the character writing is it can be generic at times. And genuinely, at its best, it is generic and bland and boring. At worst, it's unbelievably cringe to the point where I just want to tell all these characters to shut up. So another thing is is when they're in the Hall of Justice, you can find Batman like explaining his gear, because they have all the Justice League members. They're doing like presentations or something for the public, like kids and stuff.
Well, hi there, kids. Welcome to the Hall of Justice. We've opened it up just for you today.
And you have Batman explaining his gadgets and equipment.
Bat pods are my mobile preparedness units. A little like one of your backpacks. If your backpacks had cutting-edge stealth technology. Bat pods contain everything I need, from my bat suit to my bat gadgets. They can be deployed almost anywhere in the world. That means wherever people need help, I'll be there. Despite what Flash may have told you, my cowls aren't just a fancy Halloween mask. They're equipped with augmented vision lenses, so I never miss a clue. And a comlink that lets me talk to my friends in the Justice League. Before I joined the League, I relied on these cowls to keep my identity top secret. Each one is lined with lead, so no one can peek under them. Not even Superman.
Okay. So even if we're going with the idea that he has come out of his isolation post Arkham Knight, I don't think he would be explaining all of his stuff. And frankly, the Justice League wouldn't be leaving all their equipment just out in the open. Like, not even just, oh, here's some neat stuff. It's like actual functioning equipment. Not even behind like bulletproof glass. It's just easy to grab. You don't need to fix it up. You don't need to refuel it. Everything is just ready to go. It's just so that the Suicide Squad can get it for gameplay. And that's it. It's so lazy. Like, no matter how stupid the Justice League is portrayed in this game, which is quite stupid, we'll get to that later, there's no way they would be leaving all this stuff out. And especially Batman. Batman wouldn't be leaving all this functional equipment out so that anyone can just grab it. Oh my gosh. And I guess I can't not talk about Deadshot getting race swapped. So, okay, this is really dumb. So we've seen Deadshot in the Arkhamverse multiple times. We saw him in Arkham City, we saw him in Arkham Origins, and he was in the Assault on Arkham movie. And in all of those, he was pretty consistent with appearance and ability, and character too, but the Assault on Arkham movie, because he was one of the main characters, he got a little bit more fleshed out. But it was all pretty consistent. And then you get to this game, and then you have Deadshot being black, which the game blatantly points out, trying to skirt around the fact that they knew that people would point this out.
Isn't Deadshot supposed to be white?
Aren't you supposed to be shutting your damn mouth?
Okay, so this is convoluted and stupid, but this game is trying to say that the black Deadshot that we're playing as in this game is the real Arkhamverse Deadshot, and that the Deadshot from the previous games is some kind of imposter, or maybe he's Deadshot from another universe? Okay, but if that was the case, then that means you had this random Deadshot found a way to jump dimensions years before Arkham Origins, because he was already established in Origins. And if he was an imposter, then how do you explain him having Deadshot's insane aiming skills? Because he has those in all the appearances we've seen in City, in Origins, especially in Origins with the trick shots that he does for his assassinations. And even Assault on Arkham, they all show him having this incredible aim. And weirdly enough, he's better at shooting than the Deadshot in this game. So it seems weird that you would want to try to, like, dismiss that other one, the one that we've been familiar with for over a decade at this point. I mean, heck, in the Assault on Arkham movie, we see that Deadshot has the daughter that he has in the comics in that movie. So what really is the point of trying to come up with another version of Deadshot to try to insert in here and say he's the real Deadshot? And regardless of whichever way they want to go with this, whether he's an imposter or he's from another universe, this retroactively makes Batman look stupid for not knowing that there were two Floyd Lawtons running around calling themselves Deadshot, acting as assassins.
Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot.
Freeze!
Says here he's an expert sharpshooter.
How on earth?
Suspected of many assassinations. Dangerous, but reckless.
There's so many stupid, easily avoidable problems that this raises, and there's no reason that this couldn't have just been Bloodsport, who used his gun and, guess what, is black. And Bloodsport was in the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, so you think you would want to include him for, like, better brand synergy. I mean, they changed King Shark's design from what we saw in Assault on Arkham, and made him alive when he died in that movie. And they made that closer to the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn did. So why would you not use Bloodsport? Why would you bother trying to make Deadshot more like the Will Smith Deadshot from the movie that nobody liked? Or if you really wanted to have a black Deadshot, couldn't you have just said that this black Deadshot is from another universe? That he's from the Earth that they get the other Lex Luthor from, or something, whatever. It doesn't really matter. That in and of itself would solve so many problems. The writers didn't care that they contradicted lore, and they even wrote in a line to try to dismiss the criticism, showing they weren't ignorant of the issues, they just didn't care.
Isn't Deadshot supposed to be white?
Also, for some reason, they really want to push Deadshot having a serious beef with Jon Stewart, despite them having nothing connecting them?
You're gonna wish you stayed in lockup. Oh. You need another lesson, convict.
I want to learn how far I can shove this foot up your glowing green ass.
Deadshot, we're gonna get groomed if we don't get out of here.
You should listen to the Section 8 here. You are gonna get creamed.
Nah. I'm thinking this round might go the other way.
More insubordination? Okay, Floyd.
What can I say? Killing your first Justice League asshole perks you right up.
Deadshot, at least the one we saw in the City and Origins, dealt with Batman. But since this Deadshot never did, he doesn't have any real reason to beef with these heroes outside of a generic, I am bad guy and I do not like good guy. I swear, if the only reason they pushed this beef between them was because they're both black, I will scream.
You still feeling fresh and relaxed? Yeah, that's what I thought. Not so easy in a fair fight, is it?
But there doesn't seem to be any actual character reason for them to have such strong animosity. The way the Flash is treated is so strange, because not only does he save the Suicide Squad from Green Lantern early on in the game, they try to hunt him down and hurt him afterwards, and Boomerang is so mind-numbingly stupid. He wants to kill the Flash and not work with him to stop the world-ending threat that they're being tasked to stop, and Flash is willing to help them.
See this? I spent a lot of time dreaming up how I was gonna kill you with it. You're mine now.
And even after they do all this crap to Flash and cut off his finger, Flash still goes to save Harley and sacrifices himself to make sure that she lives, resulting in him getting beaten and captured by Batman. So the Suicide Squad not only owe Flash their lives multiple times over, him getting brainwashed is a direct result of their actions. Yet the game doesn't seem to care and wants you to think it's funny that he's being treated like this.
Guess you got what you wanted, Boomer. Too bad no one saw it.
Yeah, well, I saw it, all right. Look, I'm not gonna make a big deal of it.
Oh, thanks. We really appreciate it.
But I've prepared a speech. It's necessarily long. Take a seat. Sharky, I know you love the dramatic stuff.
I really do.
I'm not even a big Flash fan and I'm offended. This is so jarring when you compare it to how Wonder Woman is treated, and she's given all this respect by the Suicide Squad when she dies, and they get all really serious, but Flash is not given a fraction of that respect, despite doing way more to help them. Kryptonite doesn't affect Clark. I regret to inform you that the impact of Kryptonite on Superman is negligible. And their excuse for this, which is delivered through Captain Boomerang badly repeating what Lex Luthor is telling him.
The consequences of corruption? I mean, it's, just the, consequences of corruption.
Is that the Brainiac brainwashing changes their DNA, so now Kryptonite doesn't work on him?
Have created changes in Superman down to his DNA. I bet they've made some changes to Superman. Down to his DNA. Yes, bones and stuff.
That's a really dumb explanation to why Kryptonite doesn't work on him. And it's clearly just there to extend the story, because then they need to use another type of Kryptonite to defeat him. Guess that would have had Wonder Woman win easily against Superman since she has Kryptonite in her shield, and that would get in the way of their crappy story. But I have a question. If his DNA is being rewritten so significantly that he is no longer severely weakened by Kryptonite, then wouldn't that also apply to his ability to absorb light from the sun and use his powers? Now, I'm sure the writers of this game couldn't be bothered to put any thought into this story, but if he's changed that much that his biggest weakness is not as much of a weakness, then his ability should also be heavily dampened as well, and he shouldn't be able to fight and kill Wonder Woman like he did. And even if this is a clone or whatever, the point still stands. If the DNA is so different that regular Kryptonite doesn't affect him the same way that it should, then the power should also be affected. And this is a relatively minor point, but Diana calling Clark Kal-El is giving me Justice League flashbacks.
I'm sorry, Kal-El. Kal-El, no!
His name is Clark.
It's not like he's really dead, Martha. He just can't be Clark anymore. But I am Clark.
He was raised in Kansas and lived his life as Clark. Kal-El is his birth name, but it's not what he goes by normally. It would be like if Krillin called Goku Kakarot instead of his birth name, but no one outside of Vegeta calls him Kakarot. I don't know who at DC keeps wanting to push this whole thing of calling Superman Kal-El instead of Clark, but I'm tired of it. Now, something big to talk about with this game is, where are all the other heroes? I genuinely want to know where other heroes like Green Arrow, who is directly referenced in this game, are.
For what it's worth, I think you're cooler than Green Arrow.
What about Black Canary, who was mentioned in Night? What about Huntress, who was referenced in previous Arkham games, as well as the Birds of Prey, who are shown to exist in Arkham Knight?
They said they didn't want to place their safety, their children's safety, in the hands of vigilantes like Batman, Nightwing, and there's at least one more.
The Huntress. The Creeper?
What about the other Green Lanterns? Where are Hal, Kyle, and Guy? What about Kilowog? Anyone? We have had references to Zatanna, the Atom, Wildcat, Blue Beetle, John Constantine, Booster Gold, and Martian Manhunter. Where is anyone during this world-ending crisis? What about the Bat family? Tim is implied to be killed. Thanks for killing my favorite Robin, guys. Real cool.
Robin was here. I do not think he won.
That's got Robin. Talk about cutting out the middleman.
Fuck you.
But what about Nightwing, Red Hood, and Oracle? What about Azrael? Does anyone have any interest in coming in to help? Batman is brainwashed and they don't want to come in to help him? They really want the Suicide Squad to be the only ones here, but there are so many other characters who should at least be showing up to try to help. This is where all those Easter eggs in previous games have really come back to haunt them. There was so much love for the DC Universe and all those Easter eggs in the previous games, only for this game to completely ignore all of that. So to end off this section, I want to simply point out how utterly stupid the way the Justice League got brainwashed by Brainiac was. So basically, Brainiac comes to Earth going, "Yeah, I just want to talk, guys." And despite there being brief conversations, where some have reservations, Clark decides to be a huge idiot, and they just go to Brainiac and they just get brainwashed, with Flash and Wonder Woman being the only ones who didn't get captured.
We need a plan.
Right. Bruce.
He's right, Cal. Until we know more, we need to treat this like an incursion waiting in the wings.
I understand your caution, really. But that thing hasn't even fired a warning shot yet.
Yet.
I'm with Cal on this one. Diplomacy first, lead by example. Isn't that what we do?
Okay, we try the warm fuzzies first, then, if things go sideways, we bust out the anti-UFO bat spray. Deal?
I don't like it.
I know, Bruce. And if I'm honest, neither do I. But we have an example to set. Especially today.
This Brainiac wants to open negotiations aboard his ship. It's a trap.
Agreed. That much is apparent.
I hear you both, but we have to go in good faith. What if I had come to Earth and...
Cal, buddy, I mean, let's be real. You didn't show up in a giant skull.
I didn't choose how I got here, Flash. Now, I'll admit it's not the most inviting presence, but if we can avoid fighting altogether, we owe it to the people of Metropolis to try.
So instead of even being remotely cautious, they just walked up to Brainiac with their guards down and got mind controlled. How utterly insane. Honestly, it would have been better if you just didn't explain this. At least people might have come up with a better explanation in their heads than this crap.
I don't know you, but my pheromones remember you. Strange emotions.
Poison Ivy is brought back from the dead, but as a kid. It's so strange to do this, especially when they want to have Harley act like she and Ivy have some sort of really close relationship and imply it was romantic like some modern versions of Harley and Ivy, where they try to turn them into a power couple.
You really don't know me? Harley and Ivy forever? In 10-story burning letters?
But they made Ivy a literal child and have Harley make some questionable remarks.
I don't know you, but my pheromones remember you. Strange emotions.
Tell me about it. Wasn't expecting you to come in fun size. Oh, I just want to smush those little green cheeks.
But injecting a little girl with a brain bomb, that seemed like a lot to anyone else?
And not any little girl, my little girl. Oh, that came out weird.
Why don't you have a seat right over there, please?
No one asked them to do this, and anyone saying, "Oh, you're just upset she's not hot," like, no one wanted her to be a child. Ivy has been resurrected before in other media and just pops out as a full adult again. She has literally died, been buried, and then popped up as a full adult looking just fine. Traditionally, when Poison Ivy gets resurrected, she comes back looking like an adult. So expecting her to come back looking like she did in Arkham Knight shouldn't be considered a strange expectation, and trying to deflect any criticism by saying any critic just wants to jerk off to Ivy is just a cheap attempt to defend the game by attacking critics instead of actually defending the game. Not to mention that Harley and Ivy do not have that close of a relationship in the Arkhamverse. They've interacted twice in the games, if you include the Harley DLC from Knight. Here, I'll show you all their scenes from the games.
Harley! Ah! You have to help me.
Ivy? Gee, you look like crap. Maybe I can sneak you some shampoo.
The plants, can't you hear them? They're crying out to me in agony.
Yeah? Well, I really don't have time for this.
Please let me out. They'll die without me.
I don't know, Red. You're not on Mr. J's party list. Oh, well.
Please!
What the heck? I'll cut you a break.
That feels so much better.
She's a good kid. Red, you're looking great.
Harley, come to free me again? Need some help?
Just get back to Gotham.
yeah, that's it. And while they're on generally friendly terms, they're not close. Heck, Harley didn't even go and spring Ivy out of Bloodhaven because she cared about Ivy. It was just because she was working with Penguin and they wanted her for the big plan to kill Batman.
Harley, quit wasting time, you stupid mug. We need Poison Ivy in Gotham now if our plan to destroy Batman is gonna work.
Quit squawking, Bird Brain. And remember, I'm only helping you and Scarecrow do this to kill B-Man.
My, touch a nerve, did I? Good. Now hurry up and find Ivy.
And they certainly don't have anything close to the relationship they have in other modern continuities. Heck, they don't even have a friendship like they did in Batman the Animated Series. It makes this attempt to push such a close relationship in this game all the stranger, since it contradicts everything we've seen of their relationship in the Arkhamverse for 15 years.
You really don't know me? Harley and Ivy forever? In 10-story burning letters? I'll make this up to you. We've been through worse together. Like knowing my ex.
And it's impossible for anything to have happened between Arkham Knight and this game because Ivy died in Knight. It's a baffling decision to undo Ivy's death in Knight, which, as much as I think that whole plotline was extremely undercooked, it was one of the only things that they really put effort into trying to give some kind of actual weight in that game. Even Jason's conflict with Bruce was extremely underdeveloped and poorly done, but at least with Ivy, they tried to give her heroic sacrifice some kind of build-up and emotional weight. People who played Knight weren't all thinking, oh, well, Ivy will come back later. Pretty much everyone just assumed she was dead for real, especially with how her death scene was handled.
Nature always wins.
No one expected her to come back as the Jolly Green Greta Thunberg.
How dare you?
But what about the plant growing where her jacket was? I just assumed that was more of a circle of life type thing. Like, she died but gave back to the planet and a flower bloomed in her place. While some speculated she could come back, acting like this is definitive proof she was definitely coming back is a bit silly, especially given the finality that Arkham Knight treated a lot of the stuff in the story with.
This is the end. This is the last time we meet.
Don't talk like that. All right, this won't stop you. Nothing stops you.
Keep Bloodhaven safe. Promise me.
Even with the riddle saying she's gone but in bloom, isn't some sort of major smoking gun saying she was going to come back. It could just refer to the flower literally blooming. And especially considering how serious and grim the Arkhamverse is, where even Raish is dying, and they didn't bring back Talia for some reason, it feels a bit out of place that Ivy could come back so easily. But regardless, the way she's handled in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is just really odd. And if they really wanted a kid Ivy, they could have had it be so that Ivy herself came back normally and she created basically a plant daughter, which is the kind of thing she's done before, creating plant people. But in this case, it was basically supposed to be like a daughter, so she's supposed to be a kid. And maybe Ivy stayed dead and this was just a plant person that she had created before that just kind of started growing. So it's not Poison Ivy, but it's basically her successor. Either of those ideas would have been drastically better than what they went with.
In my home, Father would never...
I'm your daddy now, Shark. That goes for all of you.
Amanda Waller in this game is awful. She's not very smart, and even worse, she's not fat. You think that might not be a big deal, but Amanda Waller is supposed to be fat. She's called the Wall for a reason.
Nobody screws the wall.
While not all versions of Amanda Waller look like Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse, if she's not at least somewhat hefty, that should be considered a crime. I have no doubt they only made her skinny because they scanned in Deborah Wilson and she's skinny. But Waller is supposed to be fat. Side note, I'm sick of scanning actors into video games because it always takes me completely out of it. And Deborah Wilson's face keeps being put directly into video games and it's extremely distracting. It's one thing if she's just voicing a character, but actually using her face with so many characters is just jarring. This Waller not only doesn't look the part, she has all the intimidation of a middle-aged Karen demanding to see the manager.
This is a microbomb injector from our friends at LexCorp. Stick it in your target's neck, and it's good night. You want this to be where you take your last breath? No? Then help me. I only need one of you. As for the other three, you're dead already.
It was their stupid idea. They... Boy!
Give me access to Luther's files now, and I might not shoot your other leg. I'm not gonna say you betrayed my trust, because you never had it. I counted on you going rogue to get us inside LexCorp.
All humans do is manipulate. In my home, Father would never...
I'm your daddy now, Shark! That goes for all of you! I'm your daddy!
The script certainly hurts, but they have an actress who can't deliver the power that Amanda Waller is supposed to have. Her usual voice actress, CCH Pounder, who if you've seen Amanda Waller in an animated movie, show, or a game in the last 20 years, you've no doubt heard her voice.
Who says I do? He provides off-the-books funding for Cadmus. Far as I'm concerned, that's all he's good for.
Here, it's got all the information you need on it. Now go save us. I'm Amanda Waller. I'm here to indoctrinate you convicts into our special forces.
Is the perfect voice actress for Amanda Waller, and if you need to face scan the actress, Pounder actually looks the part. Just add 200 pounds to the character model and Waller will look good. Though this is even more egregious when we already had an appearance from Waller in Arkham Origins, voiced by CCH Pounder.
And what happens if I don't sign?
You rot in here, or you work for me.
She also voiced Waller in Arkham Origins Blackgate and the Assault on Arkham movie.
You see degenerates, Captain? I see soldiers.
We literally saw her in a previous game with a totally different established design when she went to Deathstroke. And they didn't use Deathstroke in this game! Also, by the way, if you didn't know the reason why Amanda Waller showed up in Origins, it was because WB Montreal wanted to do a Suicide Squad game after Origins with Deathstroke. And they had concept art and ideas of what they wanted to do with it, and it actually looked pretty cool. And they were denied!
Denied! Sit down!
Then they made DLC for Arkham Knight, which was Matter of Family, which is probably the best Knight DLC in terms of like actual content. And it was great save for Tim's jarring and canonically dubious appearance. And after that they were forced to make Gotham Knights, and we all know how that turned out.
Freeze. Freeze can make weather now?
Freeze can make weather now.
They fly now? They fly now! No, please, no more, no more.
And after WB rejected their pitch for a Suicide Squad game, they turn around years later and make Rocksteady make a Suicide Squad game.
They stole it from me, Carmine! They took it! That was today! Today!
We could have had something really cool, but WB had to screw it up. And they've screwed this up to the point where they didn't even get Waller right.
Would have been real nice if they'd ever given me press outside of Joker, though.
Originally, I wasn't going to give Harley a dedicated section, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that she needed to be discussed all on her own. I'll talk about her in other sections, but this one is for her. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is supposedly set in the Arkhamverse, but it is not consistent at all with those games. There are plenty of details that are just out of place. I've talked about some others, like especially Amanda Waller. But Arkham Asylum was reopened, and Aaron Cash apparently left the GCPD to join the reopened Arkham Asylum being run by a shady government organization? Why is he even there? Why is Arkham Asylum open? Oh yeah, so the game can throw fan service in your face trying to make you remember Arkham Asylum, because this game has nothing original that's worth anything. Harley Quinn, being one of the only characters who is in every previous Arkham game, is especially inconsistent with herself. Arkham Harley is one of the most insanely dedicated to Joker versions of Harley. Even after his death in Arkham City, she remained loyal to him and made it her mission to get revenge on Batman. We saw how she was in the Harley's Revenge DLC in Arkham City and in Arkham Knight. And when she gets involved in the admittedly dumb plot in Arkham Knight where other Joker people pop up, she becomes dedicated to them, trying to protect them simply because they're acting like the Joker. This is some next level obsession, and to just have that Harley suddenly make a complete 180 in this game with no real exploration or explanation of why she changed so much is absurd. The Harley Quinn DLC for Arkham Knight establishes she has a legit split personality between Harley Quinn and Harleen Quinzel, where Harleen talks to her and tries to get her to be better and to get help.
We kicked a lot of big butts, didn't we? Holly, let's please refrain from stereotypes and politically incorrect colloquialisms.
Sure, I think it's ridiculous to introduce something so significant like that in DLC of the third game of a trilogy, and the fourth game overall, when it wasn't hinted at before, but it really does show how mentally messed up this version of Harley is, and it's something that they could have played around with in this game. And no, a half-baked section where Fear Toxin makes Harleen appear to Harley is not the same as actually incorporating it into her character. Like, if they wanted her to be better, they could have had Harleen take control back from Harley, and she acts more heroic, with Harley being the devil on her shoulder. It would actually be a pretty solid reason why she changed so significantly. They could have taken such a random new thing that was introduced in Arkham Knight and make something out of it. And trying to make Harley act disgusted at her Arkham Knight outfit was weird.
Yeah, right.
There's a strange ping-pong of Harley in modern media where at times they'll sexualize the hell out of her and then other times act prudish with her.
I was thinking something more fashion-forward. Disgusting.
This attitude about how Harley is disgusted with her night outfit is especially weird because it's not even her most sexualized design in the Arkham games. That would be her Arkham City outfit. And honestly, all of them are relatively modest. And her night design is probably her most modest design. Trying to act like that outfit was offensive and she had to wear something totally different to be better is strange. You'd think that there was a good reason for her to reject it, being that it's a reminder of her obsession with the Joker and this game wants her to be totally done with him, but they don't do that. And I struggle to say she's totally done with the Joker, because she still calls herself Harley Quinn, and wears the color scheme of Harley Quinn, and acts goofy and violent like the Joker, so it can't be that. Her rejecting her previous outfit isn't played up as her character moving past the Joker. It's played up more like a girl boss moment, where she wears something more empowering, when it's actually just a really trashy outfit, and the night outfit had significantly more class. It's literally just spitting on the face of the previous games just to act condescending and superior. And this really hurts Harley's character because a major part of Harley Quinn since her creation in Batman the Animated Series is her tragic obsession with the Joker. I absolutely want to see stories of Harley Quinn breaking away from the Joker and what that means for her. But DC wants to ignore that and just make her female Joker, but not quite as evil. So Harley ends up being completely neutered, with all the actual depth of her character thrown out to be a bland character who can't even be funny.
Ah, the propaganda arm of capitalism. Nice lobby. Very old money yard decor. What did I tell ya? I'm no one's sidekick. Flash, I'm calling you out. Only one of us pulls off the red tights look, and it ain't you, Speedy.
She becomes boring because they lack the writing talent to actually show Harley confronting the actual crimes she committed. Especially Arkham Harley, who has done horrible things with the Joker. She's killed children. She was complicit to what happened with Jason Todd that we saw in Arkham Knight. This version especially has done terrible things. But they don't really want to address that. They just kind of want to skirt by it and be, oh, look how funny she is. And the sad part is that they used to allow that. Harley used to be able to face the consequences of her own actions and what she had done. But modern versions of Harley are sanded down so much that she's not even a real character anymore. Frankly, the Harley they seem to want to go for should be a far more somber character, having to deal with not only the trauma she endured in previous games, especially with the false positive pregnancy, the death of Joker, all that stuff, but also the weight of the many crimes she's committed, which, again, includes the murder of children that she did with the Joker. You could have had her be obnoxiously unfunny, only to reveal that everything she's doing is a fake persona she puts on to cope with how she can't handle coming to grips with how horrible she was and all the horrible things she's done, and she's only just now realizing it because it took her years of treatment after Joker's death to get back to reality. That would require the characters actually acknowledging she's being really unfunny. Or they could have just had Harley be crazy. Show that this version of Harley is not capable of redemption, and leave her as a cautionary tale who can only do remote good by virtue of being forced to, and acknowledge the tragedy of her character. But no, we just need her to be stupid and unfunny. Another thing I want to ask is, why is Harley on the team? She doesn't offer anything useful like being really strong like King Shark, or having top tier skills like Deadshot's ability to shoot ridiculous trick shots, or Captain Boomerang's weaponry and knowledge of the Flash. See, in the Assault on Arkham movie, Harley was on the team mainly because of her knowledge of Arkham Asylum since she used to work there.
She's a wild card. Harley Quinn has an encyclopedic knowledge of Arkham's layout and its logistics.
It wasn't because she had the ability to fight Batman well. What exactly does she offer here? Her knowledge as a psychiatrist is barely used in one part of the game that clearly wasn't planned by Waller. And, I mean, aside from her being a marketable character that DC really wants to push, why is she here?
Paul, why is you here?
You can buy Lantern a beer after I put him in the ground.
Oi, this is about me and Flash. Get your own moment, why don't ya?
The bios in this game are strange to say the least. They range from extremely neutral to looking like they were written by the same kind of losers on Twitter who claim Batman only beats up poor mentally ill people and never spends his money to help. Now, for a lot of the characters, there will be two different entries for them, one from Lex and then one from one of the Suicide Squad members, and I'll be talking about both of those for where it applies. Now, to start off, the Lex entry for Superman, he hates Superman. That's not really a surprise. There's nothing really out of character about Lex hating Superman's guts and writing a scathing description of him, so I'm not really going to contest this. Now, the entry from, presumably, King Shark is pretty standard and doesn't really stand out. It's a pretty by-the-numbers explanation of Superman. It points out how he's normally a really great guy, and now that he's brainwashed, he's doing a whole bunch of bad stuff, which he didn't do before, so I don't really have an issue with that. The Lex bio for Flash is not too surprising. Given Lex's disdain for superpowered heroes, his disdain for the Flash is not at all surprising. There's nothing odd about this. The one from Captain Boomerang, it's in line with his obnoxious attitude in the rest of the game. There's nothing really to write home about. It's just insulting the Flash like he does in every cutscene in the game.
Thing about Flash is, he's a coward. Guy like him sees a guy like me coming, he starts quaking in his boots.
It's stupid, and again, the Rogue should have at least some respect for Flash. But it's in character for what we've seen of this Boomerang, so this cringe is just expected. The Green Lantern entry from Lex has him be paranoid and untrusting of the Green Lantern Corps and the fact that he has to trust aliens from a faraway planet to use their powers for good. Nothing odd about that. Lex doesn't like aliens. A lot of the ones from Lex aren't really too bad given his disdain for superpowered heroes, so even if they're being written by people who hate the heroes, it at least fits Lex's character that he'd be so uncharitable and condescending about them. Now, the Deadshot entry for Jon Stewart is so strange, especially portraying him as bad for being a Green Lantern since that makes him a space cop, and calling him a know-it-all narc. It's weird how the writers seem to have a real issue with him being a Green Lantern since that makes him a space cop, because even Boomerang comments on it.
I owe him a tinny, even if he is a cop.
And it's referenced by Lex in his entry. Even though John is a noble guy and the Lanterns are fighting for justice, Sure, Deadshot's a villain, but like I mentioned before, it has a degree of personal animosity that's completely confusing for these two characters. Why does he care so much about Jon Stewart that he makes such hateful remarks? I'm still in the dark about that. And no, just because the backstory that you have to sift through in the menus about Jon arresting Deadshot is not enough to justify this level of hatred. This isn't just a, you put me in jail for being a violent killer and now I don't like you. This is the kind of hatred that festers in a mortal nemesis. It's just weird how they specifically chose the Black Green Lantern out of all of them, then race-swapped Deadshot and gave them this beef. It makes some of the things Deadshot says about him pretty suspect. I mean, they could have gone with Hal. I mean, they went with Barry for the Flash. You could have gone with Hal since he's like the original of the main Green Lanterns. You could have gone with Kyle. You could have gone with Guy Gardner. But they specifically chose Jon Stewart, who is very popular because of the Justice League cartoon show.
Where'd you learn that move? U.S. Marine Corps.
Which just makes it all the weirder that they have such utter contempt and hatred for his character, that they would have multiple of these characters make similar criticism towards him. But Deadshot calling Jon one of the good ones carries some unfortunate implications. Now, I won't really delve into people feeling this is outright racist to lob at the only black member of the Justice League in the game from a character they race-swapped to be black, but what I really want to talk about is how this line being used for Deadshot is really stupid. To highlight this point, I want to refer to another DC property that used this exact line.
I have to admit, you're not bad for a Tamaranian. You must be one of the good ones.
In the Teen Titans episode Trock, they meet an alien who is racist to Tamaranians. He is constantly nasty to Starfire and portrayed as such, including repeatedly using a slur against her.
You getting all this, Trocky? This is a job for you, Trocky. Watch it, Trocky. They're on a collision course. Move it, Trock. You're just getting in the way.
In the end, after Starfire saves his life, he reluctantly admits that she must be one of the good Tamaranians.
You must be one of the good ones.
Showing he's so bigoted that even having his life saved will only have him admit that Starfire isn't bad like other Tamaranians. You see, a line like this is typically used to highlight that a person is a bigot and has such an ingrained lower view of a whole group that even being shown that they're not bad, they have to make exceptions for their bigotry rather than admit that they were wrong. It's used to point out how bad they are. Having Deadshot use this phrase brings about the implication of him being a nasty person you're not supposed to like. Except that goes contrary to what the game seems to want to do. You see, this game tries to use the, oh, they're villains, to justify them being awful.
We're all villains here.
With you so far.
But clearly wants you to side with them every time they make a morally grandstanding speech, a condescending remark.
You still feeling fresh and relaxed? Yeah, that's what I thought. Not so easy in a fair fight, is it?
And to laugh along with their quips and banter. You're supposed to like them despite their inconsistent morals, like how they hesitate to put a brain bomb in Ivy because she's a kid, and that's crossing the line.
But injecting a little girl with a brain bomb, that seemed like a lot to anyone else?
But don't have a single problem with putting a brain bomb in Hero despite him also being a kid.
Pow! Ha ha! Payback, you little shit.
Whoa! What's this? Initiation?
Yeah, kid. Initiation. Huge congrats.
Awesome.
Aw, he's so sweet. He's not gonna make it.
The idea of them just being villains falls flat when they're not really called out for actually being awful, and the game skirts over it to be wacky and silly and expects you to just enjoy the characters. And I mean acknowledge them being bad in a meaningful way. Having Jon say the word convict 1,000 times or having Wonder Woman demean them isn't actually acknowledging them being awful villains. There's no depth with their characters acknowledging what they've done. There's nothing about Deadshot recognizing that he caused the problems with his daughter by being an assassin, Harley realizing she'd committed unspeakable acts of evil because of the Joker and wanting to be better, or Boomerang realizing how pathetic he is and that he lashes out because of his inadequacies and takes it out on the Flash. They just go, look guys, they're villains, now laugh! And nothing is done to flesh the characters out by building off of their villainy. You either have to make them likable, or develop them, or just have them be evil. But having them just be evil would make it very hard to get behind them. It's why Suicide Squad stories tend to either develop the characters, or at least give them some extra dimensions aside from just being villains who get defeated by heroes. Or they die. Assault on Arkham is a good example of this. Deadshot in the Arkham games was never a super complex character, but in the movie his relationship with his daughter becomes a primary focus with his character, and he's allowed to be more complex and even take up a leadership role within the team. And as weird as the Killer Frost and King Shark pseudo-romance was, it's a very human thing. It shows there's more to Killer Frost than being a cold-blooded killer. The Suicide Squad game doesn't really do this, because the characters in it don't really change or develop, but they're not really given much in the way of complexity or humanity to really empathize with them. And what little it attempts is just awfully done. This bio from Deadshot about Jon Stewart really highlights how utterly confused this game is about which characters we should really be caring about. It's really difficult to take it seriously when Deadshot is so horrendously unlikable and they try so hard to make Jon Stewart out to be a bad guy and have every character talk about how awful he is when he's actually a good guy. This goes beyond just we're seeing the perspective of these characters to it genuinely feels like the writers hate these characters. Now for Batman. There's some stuff to talk about with the Batman bios. So for Lex's entry, we get some cringe whining about how Batman beats up poor people and doesn't spend his money to help, which is a typical Twitter take from someone who doesn't know anything about Batman. Since Batman is publicly known to be Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne has done a ton of charity work, which is consistent amongst basically all versions of the character, this line is really odd. Bruce does a ton of charity work and has spent a ton of money to try to help people. But for villains like Joker, Black Mask, Penguin, Bane, or the like, giving them some money won't fix things. Batman is definitely needed to deal with bigger criminals and thugs who have no problem murdering the innocent. And Lex is not the character to make such a comment when he's also insanely wealthy, and him criticizing a rich dude is just hypocritical. And not in the way that you would think is meant to show him being a hypocrite. It really feels like this is supposed to be more of a condemnation on Bruce as a character. It's also a bit weird because you'd think that Lex, who hates metahumans, would at least hold a shred of respect, realizing that Batman was just a normal human who worked hard and is capable of fighting alongside heroes with superpowers that Lex despises like Superman.
Feel that, Kent. Real muscle. Not the gift of alien biochemistry, the product of hard work.
And that his ire with Batman would mostly be about him throwing his lot in with the likes of Superman, seeing it as a waste of his gifts and his talents to work with, that alien invader Superman. Something like that. It's also strange that Lex criticizes Bruce's privilege, given the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne is extremely well known, and growing up an orphan being raised by his butler certainly shouldn't be considered some sort of grand privilege, even if he was rich.
Is he okay?
He'll be fine. Kid like that with all that money, he'll be just fine.
Shut up, now. He's 8 years old and all alone. Money won't fix that.
Whatever you say, Gordon. His butler's on his way to pick him up. You hear that? He's got a butler.
I'm sorry about that. I just need to ask you some questions. Can I get you anything? You okay? I know you don't feel like answering me, but it's the only way to catch who did this.
Acting like Bruce could fix the systematic ails of Gotham by throwing money at it is asinine. It doesn't make sense for an intelligent villain like Luthor to say. The point is that Gotham can't be fixed so easily, or else Batman wouldn't be needed. If throwing money at problems could simply solve it, Bruce would have done that years ago. There's corruption rampant in Gotham, and no, Bruce doesn't all but own Gotham. He's rich, but he's one of the many wealthy people in Gotham. And there's plenty of crime lords, supervillains, and officials willing to take bribes from villains that can't simply have money thrown at them to be good. And the very purposeful framing of all of the villains and thugs Batman fights as the disenfranchised is just gross. The people Batman fights are not just some random folks stealing a loaf of bread to survive. These are violent criminals who wouldn't hesitate to kill and work for killers. We saw the political prisoners who were put into Arkham City wrongfully, who were helped by Batman as much as he could during that game. Even Quincy Sharp, who was responsible for the whole mess. It's outright dishonest to claim that Batman is a weapon against the disenfranchised. Mind you, this is the same Lex Luthor who tried to throw $1 billion at Bruce Wayne to buy a division of Wayne Enterprises.
Mr. Wayne, Lex Luthor calling. Apologies for going via your direct line, but I grow tired of these games. LexCorp has made a very generous offer for Wayne Tech's Applied Sciences division, yet your persistent unavailability begins to look less like a busy schedule and more like deliberately antagonistic behavior. Come now, meet with me. I'm sure we can come to an agreement. A man of your refined taste doesn't need an Applied Sciences division after all. He needs another $1 billion.
Is he really going to talk about Bruce being rich and not helping the disenfranchised? Surely that $1 billion could have been used to help the poor disenfranchised folks of Metropolis. I can see Lex insulting Bruce for the Robin, since Lex can't comprehend caring for other people and taking them in. That is something I'm fine with Lex Luthor being uncharitable about, even if it's not true.
I shouldn't be surprised, since you indoctrinated Robin into crime fighting at the ripe old age of 9.
Robin needed to help bring the men who murdered his family to justice.
So he could turn out like you?
So that he wouldn't.
But the whole bit about using fear toxin was something this game established, since the ending of Night was very vague about what actually happened at the end. There's only so much I can understand of Lex Luthor being uncharitable to Bruce before it just becomes cringy, and this definitely crosses the line. This overall doesn't feel like Lex wrote this. It feels like a loser on Twitter who doesn't know anything about Batman, whining about him being an evil rich man who abuses poor, innocent, poverty-stricken folks. Now, the entry written from Harley's perspective is confusing. Not because it's bad, but because it's actually pretty good, and it feels like it's written pretty in character for Harley. Here, let me read the entire entry. Let me tell you a little something about old Batsy. Somewhere deep underneath all that black and brooding and unresolved trauma, there's a guy who's just nice. Now, I know how that sounds with beating people up and I am the Knight and the occasional forays into psychological torture, but think about it. How many times did Joker end up back behind bars instead of rightfully 6 feet under? Dent, Bane, frickin' Ivy? I mean, I'm still here. He's a softy through and through. A softy with a vast disposable income and a deep need for other outlets for his aggression, but still. It's still trying to do unfunny humor. But Harley admits that Batman is actually nice deep down, despite beating up criminals and having unresolved trauma, and points out that he never killed villains, even if they deserved it. And this entry even admits that Harley wouldn't be there without his mercy towards her. It's really out of place in this game, because this is completely contradictory to how Harley acts in the rest of the game. We'll get to the worst of it soon, but she holds no respect for Batman during the game, and holds no empathy for people like Robin supposedly being murdered by Batman. She'll even mock and insult Batman for the very things this entry is praising him for. This entry calls him a softie and frames it as a positive thing that he didn't kill his villains, and understands that had Batman not held such a strong moral code, that Harley would be dead. I don't know who wrote this entry, but they seem to be one of the only people in the dev team who even had a halfway decent grasp on Harley's character. Wonder Woman's is the strangest one of all. Lex Luthor's entry for her has him worshipping the Amazons for solving toxic masculinity and simping hard for Wonder Woman, which is radically out of character for Lex Luthor. I can understand him having disdain for superhumans like Superman, and that being reflected in his entries. But he outright kisses the feet of Wonder Woman until the last bit of this long entry, where it suddenly turns around and has Lex go, well, I guess she's not like totally perfect. The use of terms like toxic masculinity makes this apparent a loser from Twitter wrote this and not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor should hold the same level of disdain for Wonder Woman that he does for Superman and the Flash, not groveling at how perfect the Amazons are and how amazing Wonder Woman is. It's stuff like this that makes it extremely apparent that people who have no love or respect for the comics are involved with writing this. The bios overall are a disaster, and occasionally they manage to just be basic descriptions of the characters, which should be the absolute minimum we should expect. And occasionally they'll have one that feels in character, like Lex hating Superman. Harley's Batman entry is about the only one that really feels like it offers a genuine look at how a character views someone, and Lex's entries are like playing Russian roulette. Sometimes you get him hating a superhero, and other times he's whining about toxic masculinity.
How embarrassing. We killed Superman! Hell, we murdered the whole Justice League! In self-defense, since they were all totally evil, yeah.
Considering this game is called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it's no surprise that I have a section all about the deaths. You'd think that a game based entirely on this concept would at least put some care into how they kill the Justice League if they're going to actually commit to that idea. But no. These scenes are terrible. It almost feels like they barely put thought into them. The deaths could have at least been somewhat tolerable if they were given respect and their deaths were treated as the tragedy that they are. But they're not. Only Wonder Woman is given any kind of tragic weight to her death, but she's the only one who doesn't die being brainwashed. Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, all of them are given the finger when it comes to their deaths, and the writers couldn't even bother to treat their deaths as actual tragedies that should be considered horrible. I guess that just gets in the way of the wacky funnies the game seems to think people want to see. So for the Flash is such an oddity in this game, and I've talked about this a lot because it's so annoying. He starts off the story not brainwashed, only for, as previously mentioned, the Suicide Squad to be so stupid that they directly cause Flash to get brainwashed. They have to fiddle around with dumb MacGuffins from Toyman to try to deal with the Flash, but they just shoot him to death, despite the fact that the game constantly pokes fun at the idea of just shooting the Flash.
Take the shot already!
That's the Flash? You might as well post him the bullet.
Man, you know it's gone to hell when you... Really? Why don't you just mail me the bullet?
He could easily kill all of them, and he even talks about ways he could kill them all easily, but he just doesn't do that, just so the Suicide Squad can win.
I did want to grab you one at a time and run fast enough to burn the skin off your bones. Friction, you know? Ouchie. But I don't need to touch you to tear you apart. So let's play!
Like really, you don't even do anything clever to beat the Flash. It's literally just, we need to get anti-Flash technology. There's such a tonal inconsistency with Flash in this game, and the death scene really encapsulates it. They clearly want you to root for the Suicide Squad to kill him, but make sure he's the most helpful member of the League who saves the Suicide Squad multiple times. Then they really celebrate his death, with King Shark being the only one who actually acknowledges, however briefly, that he did help them. And we have a scene earlier in the game where Wonder Woman uses the lasso of truth on Flash, and it temporarily negates the brainwashing, and it's used to deliver the fact that they can't be saved from the brainwashing.
How do I stop this?
You can't. Brainiac's going to transform Earth into a new Kolu. Of course we'll have to kill every man, woman, and child to do it, even the dogs.
Barry! Please, tell me how.
Barry?
You have to kill us, Diana. We have to die to save the world.
Barry.
It's actually played pretty straight and serious, but the game doesn't really want to dwell on that.
Oof. Sucks you got off your pals, princess. You know, killing Flash is on our to-do list. How about a team up?
You didn't let her finish. We should team up.
Barry? Who the hell's Barry?
I'm a warrior for peace. I swore an oath to never strike anyone in anger. You four are seriously testing my resolve!
The fact that this implies that there are ways to negate the brainwashing, even if it's temporary, is skipped over and the game just goes, whoop, they can't be saved, and leaves it at that. Which then makes it weirder when we even have a scene with Superman where you kind of see that he's not completely brainwashed. There's still a part of him in there.
He's still in there somewhere.
But the game still refuses to truly acknowledge this and actually try to figure something out with this.
Your friends can't be helped, love. Flash told ya. Either you wake the hell up and help us kick their super asses,
or you stay out of our way.
This is especially egregious when we have actually seen the Lasso of Truth be able to dispel brainwashing. And not just any run-of-the-mill brainwashing. Trigon brainwashing.
Who are you? I am corruption incarnate. The lasso commands you answer. I am Diana of Themyscira!
And for such a tragic scene that seems to want you to take it seriously, they really just end up pissing all over the Flash. Not a thought is spared for options to undo the brainwashing, despite being told it's impossible to solve. Perhaps Martian Manhunter could help with his psychic powers. Since he's around and he's apparently at the GCPD, maybe we can get some Green Lantern tech. Nah, we just need to get to the Flash dying so we can crack jokes about it. Everything about his actual death scene is treated like a joke. Flash anticlimactically flops over, and as mentioned earlier, they do the whole subverted expectations thing, where King Shark tries to give some respect to the Flash for saving them multiple times, only for... Oh my gosh.
And so the Flash has expired. He saved our lives, yet we ended his. As honorable warriors, we will show proper respect to this fallen hero.
Only for Boomerang to pull out his dick so he can piss on the Flash. Deadshot tries to stop him before they all get distracted by how big his dick is.
Bye.
Show a little class, man. That... Holy shit. Congratulations.
Makes sense. The gods have cursed you in every other way.
Flash's death having any meaning is pretty much forgotten about after this horrible joke. And they move on to Boomerang being extremely obnoxious about having a speech prepared for the Flash being dead.
Guess you got what you wanted, Boomer. Too bad no one saw it.
Yeah, well, I saw it, all right. Look, I'm not gonna make a big deal of it.
Oh, thanks. We really appreciate it.
But I've prepared a speech. It's necessarily long. Take a seat, Sharky. I know you love the dramatic stuff.
I really do.
To my massive and disappointingly male fan base.
I don't think the ship dug your bait and tackle show, Boomer.
Yep, that's it. That's what the Flash's death amounted to. I really miss classic Boomerang right now. Even if he was a bad person, at least his respect for the Flash was a redeeming quality. John's fight is really dull, and just has him being shot until he dies and falls down anticlimactically. Get used to me saying that. He could have easily killed the Suicide Squad before and during the boss fight, but their plot armor protected them. It's wild how the game literally shows how he can effortlessly capture them in the beginning.
You know what? I'm in the middle of recon for Brainiac. Let's walk and talk.
And then he doesn't do that again. It's such a joke. And when Jon Stewart is killed by Deadshot while he's delivering a cringy one-liner.
You're just gonna go from Waller's prison to Brainiac's.
Nah. Didn't you hear? We're out on good behavior.
And his ring is taken from him. He's stripped down to his Green Lantern branded boxers. Oh my gosh. While King Shark dicks around with his ring. From what I know about Green Lantern rings, if their user is dead, they fly to another person worthy of using it or back to Oa. They can also resize, so King Shark struggling to fit it on his finger, just assuming he is capable of using the ring at all, is dumb. Now I'll let the Green Lantern fans deal with all the extra details they got wrong with this.
He's all yours.
Superman gets shot to death. What? Yes. Superman gets shot to death. And then he just sort of flops on the ground. It's very creative because unlike the Flash, who they shoot a lot, or Green Lantern, who they shoot a lot, Superman is actually shot a lot to defeat him.
Now let's all agree to never be creative again.
And for someone as powerful as Superman, his death has zero weight or even emphasis on it. It's even more anticlimactic than the other deaths, which feels strange for Superman. There's a big deal made with how powerful he is, and with Superman dead, that should elicit a reaction of some sort, but he just gets the most nothing reaction out of all the heroes. I don't really have much to say about this death, because there's so little to it. I mean, a lot of these deaths are just kind of anticlimactic, and you just kind of move on after they're dead. But Superman feels the worst because you don't even really interact with him. Because at least with Flash and Green Lantern and Batman, you do interact with them more before they die. So as bad as any of those other death scenes are, at least you have something. But with Superman, he's barely there. And you better not be expecting to have the characters have any real conversations with him. Frankly, he's giving Electrocutioner from Arkham Origins a run for his money when it comes to how much screen time he gets. I mean, this whole bit with Superman feels like a genuine afterthought that was thrown in at the last minute. Even Lois Lane seems to not be all that broken up about the death of her... is he her husband or boyfriend in this? Not entirely clear. But regardless, considering that Superman is the hero of Metropolis, Lois Lane should have some kind of real emotional reaction to that. But moving on from Superman, Wonder Woman's death is so insanely surreal compared to the rest of them. So she's the only character in this entire game that doesn't get brainwashed at all before she dies. She makes a few appearances, she insults the Suicide Squad, and then she goes to fight Superman. So after her stupid fight with Superman, where he kills her after she stabs his heart with kryptonite, which is done for reasons I mentioned before, and it's still piercing his heart, so it should still hurt him, even if it... Cardinal! And after Superman blasts Wonder Woman, she's laying on the ground as she dies, and the entire team is super concerned.
It should have... Don't try to talk. It should have killed him. He'll recover. Be prepared.
Shark, help me carry her in. We got medics inside.
Thought the four of you couldn't achieve anything. Prove me wrong.
She's probably just bushed. Right?
Her heart has stopped beating.
You went out like you lived, doll. Looking sharp. And never listening to us.
Harley gets all serious and tries to comfort her, showing extreme empathy and care for her. Deadshot wants to get her medical attention. All of them are somber as she dies. Even Boomerang, who is an incessantly stupid and immature dickhead, but he shuts up for Wonder Woman's death. And afterwards, everyone is mourning her, and they're all really serious about it. They don't do this with any of the other Justice League members. Mind you, Flash saved them multiple times and they barely cared about him. Wonder Woman did less than that and even ignored the chance to work directly with them and was even hugely condescending to them. And she gets the red carpet of death scenes rolled out for her? This and Lex gushing about her in his descriptions of her makes the favoritism for her abundantly clear. Oh, and we can't forget how Lois Lane gushes about how Wonder Woman was probably the greatest good Metropolis has ever had.
She was the only member of the Justice League who resisted the corruption. All the way to the end. For weeks, she has been our champion. Our greatest hope. And maybe the strongest force for good that Metropolis has ever known.
Hey Lois, you forget about Superman? You know, the hero of Metropolis? The only hero that's in the Justice League that's actually from Metropolis? You know, the guy who's been saving Metropolis on a regular basis for years? I really want to make this point clear. Lois Lane manages to forget Superman is the hero of Metropolis and acts like Wonder Woman is the greatest thing ever. This game managed to worship Wonder Woman so much despite killing her, and it makes me wonder why they don't do that with any of the others. It wouldn't be so odd if they gushed about all the members of the leagues, but it's just Wonder Woman. Like, you couldn't have spread just a little bit of that for any of the others to give them at least some kind of dignity? But these aren't even the worst of the deaths. And by process of elimination, I'm sure it's clear who I'm going to talk about next.
After all we've been through, bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end, huh, Bats?
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Batman's death is particularly bad, and it getting leaked was the catalyst for a lot of people turning on the game before it came out, and for good reason. The boss fight with Batman is so stupid, because he has them trapped and uses fear toxin on them with home field advantage. They're high as a kite on fear toxin, hallucinating their fears, so they should be easy pickings for Batman, especially a Batman who has no qualms about using lethal force. Heck, he already took them out earlier in the game effortlessly without having to use fear toxin. But no, you don't even get to face off against Batman using his actual skills and abilities. You fight a giant Batman monster and shoot at it, because of course you shoot at it. Until it goes back to reality and Batman anticlimactically flops over so he can be captured. And they try to repeat the cutting the fingers off joke again.
What the hell? Again, Boomer?
What? I thought we were going for the hat trick. No? Fine.
That joke was never funny. It wasn't funny with Flash, it wasn't funny with Green Lantern, and Boomerang trying to cut Batman's finger off, it's not funny. Overall, there's this weird distaste for Batman running through this game.
Harley, even you can't be stupid enough to think that you have a chance against Superman.
The I am vengeance, I am the night line is constantly mocked, where Batman keeps saying it multiple times for a joke and they keep mocking him and interrupting him.
You've already lost, Luther. I am vengeance. I am...
It's just insulting to take one of Batman's most iconic lines and have it be used to insult him. Like mentioned previously, the Harley bio for Batman is about the only time he's given any kind of respect, and this scene is about to completely contradict that. Though now that I think about it, there was a scene earlier on when they first ran into Batman where Harley is jovial around him.
Hey, Bruce! Still using shadows to scare the crap out of us criminals, huh? Don't sweat it. Batman doesn't kill people.
Which still contradicts how she acts in this scene. And you'll see. Let's watch this.
You think you're a team now? You're herd animals, dependent on someone else to survive. Like you, Harkness. An illiterate alcoholic who's desperate.
Let him cook!
Dad, Floyd's a deadbeat.
Let him cook now!
Sharky's a freak.
Let him
Will
cook!
never be a real boy, and what was it? Oh yeah, I never was too bright. Get some new material, jerk off.
Rocksteady? I know you're referencing Arkham Asylum with that line, but you do realize that Harley never heard Batman say that, right? Batman never even said that line out loud. He thought it to himself.
Harley thinks she has me trapped in this chamber. She never was very bright.
Just another lazy attempt to reference Asylum only to completely bungle it. Stuff like this shows how unfamiliar with the previous games the writers are and how incompetent they are that they couldn't even go back and watch a playthrough of the game to see that this line makes no sense.
You know, Joker used to be real good at hurting people with words. But you, boop. Even when you're evil, you're still too good. You had a good run, Brucey. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, cleaning up the streets, causing long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew.
Harley's monologue is ridiculous and hypocritical. How can she talk about Batman causing trauma when she was complicit in so much death and destruction because of the Joker? See, this is what I mean when I said that the game wants you to take the side of the Suicide Squad despite them being unlikable douchebags. Harley delivers a very hate-filled speech to Batman, and it's framed as some epic own scene where she callously murders him. You go, girl?
It's our turn now.
Our turn? What does Harley think is going to happen after they kill the Justice League? That they'll be free to be evil? Even though there's still plenty of unaccounted for superheroes, but whatever. That they'll replace them as heroes? Harley's entire monologue is so insane. It genuinely feels like this is written by a Twitter weirdo with a beef against Batman. Made all the more baffling when the Harley description of Batman runs completely contrary to this. Where is her appreciation for him sparing her life and not killing his villains? Where's the Harley that called him nice? This Harley is just ranting about how he hurts people and causes trauma, when Harley herself described him as a nice guy who spared his villains when they deserved death. You can tell that there were different writers working on different parts of the game that had completely different ideas of what these characters were supposed to be like.
After all we've been through, bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end, huh, Babs?
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost. But you always gotta end on your best joke.
Also, what's her beef with Batman if she's completely turned away from the Joker? Her main beef with him has always been the fact that he fought the Joker and she was in love with the Joker. And her beef in the Harley's Revenge DLC and in Night was because Joker died and she was trying to avenge him. But now she hates the Joker, so shouldn't she have chilled out on Batman like she apparently did according to her entry for him? Shouldn't she be thankful for him because she got to live to be rid of the guy she realized ruined her life?
You should have left me to die! Then I could have been back together with Mr. J!
If they wanted to have changed so drastically since Night, then why do they keep her same feelings about Batman? I'm not saying she should be all gung-ho supporting Batman, but she should at least be like, well, I realized my ex-boyfriend, who I thought had impregnated me, had caused me a lot of trauma, was actually bad, and you fought him, so I guess I really don't have a reason to hate you anymore. Even more so, considering Harley's bio for Batman explicitly calls attention to the fact that he's actually a nice guy underneath the brooding and the scare tactics, and he spares his villains. He is the reason Harley is still alive, which the bio recognizes, but Harley in this cutscene seems to think he's a horrible person who deserves to get domed. I think it's fair to say that a well-written Harley that is moved past the Joker should be a lot more chill with Batman, if not outright supportive of him. It's just so much more interesting to have Harley be friendly with her former nemesis after realizing Joker was what ruined her life. Anytime I see a post-Joker Harley being friendly with Batman, it's so much more engaging than seeing her act just as bad, if not worse, without the Joker, while trying to act like she's so much better than him. It's like they want her to be just as crazy as the Joker, but somehow is better because she's not with the Joker, but she still dresses like she's with the Joker and keeps her theming from the Joker. She should be wearing something totally different without any of the makeup or the colors associated with Joker if she's really turned away from him. but they want her to be a, quote, villain anti-hero with the same iconography since they're too cowardly to actually develop her character. All of this just feels like it's completely ignoring the actual history of the characters just so that they could rub some salt in the wound as Harley kills Batman. Batman and Harley are basically some of the only characters who appeared in all of the previous Arkham games. So you would think that the end of Batman's story with Harley would have some kind of like introspection, acknowledgement of the past, but no, all that's gone just so that Harley can insult Batman.
Time for us bad guys to save the world.
And I'm not the first person to point this out, but there's a sound of a shell casing hitting the ground after the shot, despite Harley using a revolver so the casing would still be in the cylinder. It's astounding how incompetent they are when they really want to pretend the scene has any kind of impact with the music in the back, trying to manipulate people into feeling emotional over it. But they can't even get basic things about the gun right. Batman shouldn't have been defeated like that. I mean, really, a bullet to his cowl is supposed to easily kill him? The bat suit is armored and the cowl is no different. If Batman was allowed to be as competent of a fighter in this game as he was in the previous Arkham games, he would mob the Suicide Squad. Basically, he'd do this. Okay, but seriously, we have actually seen Arkham Batman take on not only the Suicide Squad, but all the characters in this game, plus Killer Frost and Black Spider. To say he demolishes them is an understatement. Arkham Batman would never have been such a pushover to defeat, and if they were going to defeat him, it should have taken a hell of a lot more work than it actually did in this game. And to not even give him a proper boss fight at all is not just insulting, but it's a waste. But then again, that's been the norm for this entire game, so it's not really too surprising.
I wanted to say goodbye, Tim. After everything, I'm proud to call you Nightwing and Oracle my friends.
You thought I was done talking about Batman? Hell no! I'm a massive Batman fan who's played all the previous Arkham games, and I take personal offense to how he's treated in this game. But of course there are shills and contrarians who try to shout down criticism by countering with nonsense. So I'll take a look at some of the more annoying defenses I saw on social media, trying to defend how Batman was treated in this trash fire of a game. Why do you want to play as Batman? You had other games to play as Batman, why do you want more of that? Well, gee, it's almost as if this is set in the Arkhamverse, where we had 4 games playing as Batman in a universe built entirely on him. They didn't have to set this in the Arkhamverse, but they did. How amazing would it have been to actually play as Batman working with the Suicide Squad to save the Justice League? That would have been way better than the generic slop we got. Can you really blame people for wanting to play as Batman again? Especially because the last time we got an Arkham game was in 2015. We have had almost a decade without an Arkham game. Yes, of course people want to play as him again. Those games are fun. And people have been invested in the Arkham series since the first game came out in 2009. This attitude like it's ridiculous to want to play as Batman in a series built primarily on Batman is just a silly thing to think. Can't you just play Injustice? There's Batman in that. The Injustice games have abhorrent narratives, so no. I hate how Batman is written in those games, and how the games are written overall. We could have had a good game playing as Batman against the brainwashed Justice League using his non-lethal methods to take them down, but no. The character writing in the Injustice games are terrible, and what they did to Superman should be considered a war crime. We shouldn't say, well, you should go play that game that's slightly less garbage than this garbage that you're complaining about. No, I don't want to play either. I think they're both bad. And that's not really a defense of this game when people saying, I want to play as Batman. You're like, oh, just go play a fighting game that's completely different in gameplay, story, and continuity than anything in the Arkhamverse. What? Like, no, a fighting game is different. And even if the Injustice games were good, that's not a replacement for an actual Arkham game. Why are you mad about Kevin Conroy? They couldn't have known he would die. Well, freaking no duh. No one is saying they knew that he would die. It just stings. People trying to justify how Batman was treated are being willfully ignorant and trying to use Kevin Conroy as a shield to justify this game. No one is saying that they knew Kevin Conroy would die and that this would be one of his last performances, so they made it bad on purpose. People were mad because they had Kevin Conroy, the most iconic voice actor for Batman, and they wasted him in what turned out to be one of his last performances. Like, what's the point of giving this terrible garbage version of Batman to Kevin Conroy? I mean, aside from nostalgia waiting for the Arkham series. People were just as pissed off about Kevin Conroy getting to play Bruce Wayne in live action for the first time during the CW Infinite Crisis crossover, only for him to be a stupid, violent, psycho evil Batman who gets murdered by Batwoman. This is fundamentally no different than that, but it hurts even more because he died and this is one of his final roles. And for a while, we thought it was going to be the final performance we'd ever get to hear from him. So before we found out that there were other roles that he had recorded before he died, yeah, people were pretty pissed off that the last we got to hear of one of the most iconic and beloved voices for Batman was going to be this crap. This is all bad enough on its own, but it stings knowing that they wasted one of his final performances on this terribly written game that treats Batman like crap. And the rush tribute to Batman thrown in at the end before it throws an item drop at you does not help. It feels like something thrown in to desperately try to get people to feel better, but it doesn't work when they clearly had nothing but disdain for Batman the entire game. And then go, yo, that Batman dude was pretty great, right? But Kevin Conroy was in it, so he supported everything in it. I'm sorry. Are we saying that because Kevin Conroy continued to play Batman and didn't turn the role down, that means he supports everything in it? We don't know how much Kevin Conroy knew before he signed on, but it doesn't really matter. He loved playing Batman. So I'm not surprised he didn't turn this down out of some sort of morality stance of, nope, this is a bad story. I mean, are we going to hold to this logic saying that he loved Bruce borking Barbara in the Killing Joke movie, and therefore you can't criticize that movie? Does that mean he supported the terrible CW Infinite Crisis episode he was in? He wanted to do the Killing Joke in a live-action Batman role for years. And the sad part is that both of those opportunities were tainted, but he did them nevertheless. I'm not aware of any moment where Kevin Conroy turned down a Batman role, and this logic leads you to saying he supports everything he's ever been in. The man was an actor and did his job professionally. He loved Batman. He loved being Batman. I wouldn't blame him if he uncritically took every single role without looking into it because, hey, it's more Batman. Trying to use his involvement in the game as a shield is shameless. And all the people who worked on this turd of a game trying to throw up Kevin Conroy as their defense are even more shameless. They're using a dead man people adore to try to shout down fans for criticizing their garbage, and it's disgusting. No one can tell people not to use Kevin Conroy's name while criticizing the game, while simultaneously using his name to defend it and put words in his mouth to attack fans. But there are leaks implying the Justice League members will come back, so that means everything is fine. That changes nothing. They still treated the characters awfully, and the characters in the story wouldn't know if they were clones or whatever, and they were still treating them badly. This game went out of its way to disrespect the characters and humiliate them, yet I'm supposed to be excited at the possibility of them coming back?
No way. Not a chance.
And no one who has any self-respect would get excited over this trash fire of a game bringing these characters back after they went so hard on disrespecting them in the first place. They still had Harley give a condescending monologue to Batman about how awful he is in a very dramatic scene making fun of him before blowing his brains out. Sorry, I'm not enough of a consumer to clap like a seal at this overpriced, badly made looter shooter teasing that they might bring back my favorite superhero after blowing his brains out. Not to mention, what about characters like Tim who were heavily implied to be murdered by Batman? Will he be coming back? What about Wonder Woman? She wasn't brainwashed, so there was no opportunity to make a clone of her. Is she just totally dead? Or will they BS it and bring her back, or just pull another Wonder Woman from another universe? They've already crossed the line like 10 times. Taking one step back after all, that doesn't fix the issues. And this defense is actually one of my favorites. You're just mad because Batman doesn't have his plot armor. It's not plot armor. It's just about not treating the character with contempt. It's canon that this version of Batman has gone through so much crap, fought so many enemies for so many years, overcoming his most dangerous arch nemesis, surviving severe poisoning, mind control, being dosed with fear toxin multiple times, and after all of that, this is how his story ends? Bull crap! See him go through all those struggles and make it out, only to have him be made stupid off-screen and then die a humiliating death, is beyond offensive. And despite how stupid the plot of Knight is, he even overcame what would have been certain death with the Joker taking over his mind, dealing with being injected by enough fear toxin to kill an elephant. And then he overcame the Joker hijacking his mind after suffering from that for months on end. To have him, after all of that, be treated so piss poorly and then not even get a dignifying death is not about plot armor. There was nothing stopping them from treating him decently, but they went out of their way to treat him badly and kill him in an insulting way. And I'll reiterate, if they reveal that this was a clone or whatever, that does not fix the game treating him with such hatred and contempt. Yes, this is Brainiac, who's a powerful antagonist, but it's still annoying that after everything he went through, he falls to brainwashing and then dies being treated like crap. Not to mention that other major villains like Darkseid and Trigon have had their brainwashing beaten. Why would we treat Brainiac's brainwashing as if he's completely unstoppable and there's no way to actually break it? Batman may have bordered on superhuman at times in the Arkham games, but he wasn't coated head to toe in plot armor. The worst it got was in Knight, but Knight is overall really badly written, and even with his plot armor being dumb in that game, that's still nowhere near close to what the Suicide Squad have. You can't bring up Batman having plot armor without talking about how much plot armor the Suicide Squad have in this game. They never should have posed even a minor threat, and each member of the Justice League should have been able to kill them all easily, but they just don't. I mean, heck, we see Wonder Woman solo the entire Suicide Squad effortlessly, and she's not as fast as the Flash, she doesn't have the technology of the Green Lanterns, and she doesn't have Superman's incredible power set. You're telling me those other heroes, while brainwashed and willing to use lethal force, couldn't just obliterate the Suicide Squad? They have to nerf the Justice League so much so the Suicide Squad has even a fighting chance of not instantly dying. Flash could easily kill everyone, and he kills Lex Luthor by yanking his heart out of him at light speed. So why doesn't he do something like that to the Suicide Squad? Why does he mess around with them with a tornado? Why doesn't Superman vaporize them? They're trying to kill the Suicide Squad, so what's stopping Superman from killing them all before they can blink? Why does Batman kill other people but only knock out the Suicide Squad? And any time they want to capture them, they should be able to do it effortlessly. Green Lantern captures them all easily at the beginning of the game, and they only get out because of the Flash. The plot armor the Suicide Squad have in this game is genuinely insane, to the point of being straight up plot holes. This could have been explained if they had the Justice League be able to be saved and there was still enough of their personality fighting for control that they didn't just go around killing people. Which would have been a good reason why they didn't instantly murk the Suicide Squad, but they don't do that. As I mentioned before, they go out of their way to not really address the idea of them being able to be saved, or even elaborate on the point that maybe there's a bit of their personality still fighting in there. The Justice League in this game are all brutal and murderous, except for when it comes to the Suicide Squad, and it's obvious how much the story bends to make sure they don't instantly lose. The frickin' Wonder Twins would have washed the Suicide Squad.
Give me one reason why we should go out into that shit show.
The bombs, dumbass.
Morbid curiosity.
Given that I've talked so much about how much this game doesn't work, I thought I'd take a step back and sort of talk about how this could have worked. To be honest, the basic premise of this game as well as its backstory aren't inherently unworkable. Sure, they take real effort to make work after Arkham Knight so definitively wanted to end Arkham Batman's story, but in the hands of even decent writers, this could have worked. I'll be honest, I don't like the ending of Knight, so undoing it is not an issue that I really have. Frankly, I think it would have been great to follow up Knight with Bruce at his lowest point, isolated, thought to be dead, and not using fear toxin, meet the Justice League after the Nightfall plan, and they, especially Superman, bring him back from his lowest point. And then when they're brainwashed, he returns that favor and helps them. Or you could have just had Bruce come out of his isolation and help the Justice League, regardless of whether you already knew them or not, because it's the right thing to do. And this gets him to come out and reconnect with his family again, so he kind of rebuilds the stuff that he had left behind at the end of Knight. You can still have the Suicide Squad involved helping Bruce through the game, and instead of this weird portrayal of Harley, they could have had her come to respect Batman, especially after years of Joker being dead. She makes peace with Batman over what happened in the past games, and realizes that she was in the wrong, and she sees helping out while she's on the Suicide Squad as her penance for her crimes. A game where you play as Batman trying to save the Justice League with the help of the Suicide Squad would be great. We saw Batman kind of work with the Suicide Squad in Assault on Arkham. Making that the premise for the game would be amazing, and it could be a good way to introduce the Justice League to the Arkhamverse, especially if they're trying to do the whole, oh no, the Justice League never existed until after Knight thing. And even if this game was focused just on the Suicide Squad, you could focus it all on Harley's redemption when she's finally out of prison. Instead of trying to make her seem cool and quirky, she could have been more thoughtful and repentant, and this could make her more willing to save the League than the others. Especially Batman, because in the years since Knight, she's realized that she was a terrible person and that Batman was actually helping people. And especially since everyone knows Batman is Bruce Wayne now, Harley has a better understanding of why someone like Bruce would become Batman. She could be more empathetic to him. They could actually use her past as a psychiatrist to try to understand Batman better now that her mind isn't clouded with mad love for the Joker. Or, since Arkham Knight's DLC established that Harley has a legit split personality with Harleen, that could be something that they could play with. As out of nowhere as it was, it's something that they could work with this game to give Harley some more character development. Actually have Harleen pop up and contribute to Harley's redemption, or maybe Harley gives up control because she realized she was the problem, and Harleen gets to actually do something. Or like I mentioned before, have Harley's complete 180 be explained by Harleen having taken control. And in this situation, Harley acts as the devil on her shoulder, trying to tempt her to be evil again, and she fights against it. There's a lot of stuff you could do, and I think Harley has the most potential to effectively be the protagonist of the story, considering she was in all the previous Arkham games. If there's any character here that I think should have taken center stage in a story that wasn't really about Batman, but it was just about the Suicide Squad, it would be Harley. And a well-written Harley could make for a very engaging protagonist that people would be interested in seeing. There's plenty of potential to go in multiple different directions with her. I mentioned a few earlier and a few more in here now, but I think playing as a redeemed Harley or a Harley working on redemption would be the best way to go. So if we're just keeping the same cast that's in the game and we're not adding anyone or making any changes, we'll have Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark. Now, for Deadshot, I would have this be the Deadshot from the previous games, because of course. But after City, he decided to focus his efforts on taking care of his daughter Zoe, and it changed his priorities. Now he mainly just wants to take care of Zoe and his ex-girlfriend Michelle, who he had Zoe with. But after he was arrested from an assassination gone wrong, he gets dragged back into the Suicide Squad. To be in line with his characterization in Assault on Arkham, you could have him take up the leadership role since he's gone through the Suicide Squad more than anyone else, and he's more blasé about things. Even if we're retconning Assault on Arkham completely out of continuity, you can still use the good stuff from it for this, and Deadshot's characterization was great in that movie. Now with Captain Boomerang, what I decided to do with him was to focus on his relationship with his son Owen. So with this, Captain Boomerang has a lot of problems with his son, who has completely shut him out due to his villainy. This has led to Boomerang becoming increasingly unstable, and when he went so far as to break the code of the rogues, he was turned on by the others and then left to be locked up, ultimately being scooped up by Waller. His story could have him realize how far he'd fallen, and that after all the years the Flash attempted to help him, Boomerang now tries to return that favor, and he tries to help the Flash while he's being brainwashed, so that he can be the kind of father that his son would look up to, even if he's a criminal. And if we save the League, this could be a big moment for him to interact with the Flash and get help from him, and maybe even Flash could help him batch things up with his son. And this could have Boomerang's place at the Rogues restored after he's become the villain he used to be. So Boomerang actually goes through his own character arc where he actually becomes a better person, even if he's still a criminal. He's better than he was at the start, and he now has a completely renewed relationship with the Flash. Now for King Shark, this isn't really too complicated. He's killed a bunch of people, he's been out of control, and Aquaman has attempted to help him, but it never really went anywhere. King Shark has been abandoned by his father, leaving him to try to redeem himself in the eyes of his father, and because of this, he gets roped into the Suicide Squad by Waller, tricking King Shark into serving her. So he follows Waller's orders because he's desperate for that redemption. And his character arc can be that he realizes he doesn't need to follow Waller's orders in order to redeem himself, and that he can redeem himself on his own terms. It's not really all that complicated, and it doesn't really have as many layers as the others, but I think actually giving him an arc when everyone else has some kind of arc would actually be a good thing, even if King Shark is more simple than the others. And you could have Rick Flag act as the squad's field commander, giving them direct orders based on Waller's directions, and, like his comic counterpart, be more willing to stand by the squad and fight alongside them, regardless of how bad they are. You could incorporate other supporting characters from the comics, like Karen Grace, Cameron Chase, or Dylan Battles, each of them serving different roles, like Medic, or Cameron Chase serving with their ability to nullify metahuman abilities, and Dylan Battles' tech skills. That way you can actually have a solid supporting cast. And to go beyond the main cast, you can also include characters like Killer Frost, Black Spider, and KG Beast, like in Assault on Arkham, and include characters like Bloodsport. Even if it's a live service game, you could still have a bunch of playable characters instead of just 4, and make them play more unique based on how they actually fight, not just giving everyone guns. We saw how different they were in Assault on Arkham. It would be a lot more fun to play as them with each of their own unique abilities, skills, and weapons than just everyone getting guns and shooting. I mean, if there's any character who should just be a gun guy, it should be Rick Flag. And of course, we have to include Deathstroke as the seasoned member of the squad, even more so than Deadshot. And maybe you can have them split into teams and you kind of see the other characters during the story. And then later on, especially for doing live service, I would prefer to have this all from the start. But if we're going to be doing live service and adding things as time goes on, having a new story campaign where you get to play as the other squad with Killer Frost and Black Spider and Deathstroke, whatever, it would be a lot more interesting to play as that rather than just getting an alternate version of the Joker that sucks. Now, obviously, I'd prefer this to all be in the game properly, but if WB agreed it to be live service, then I would go with it. I'd just try to make it worth it. And that's really it when it comes to ideas. I haven't really spent an excessive amount of time thinking about this. And these were just ideas that I came up with in about half an hour just writing some things down. Honestly, we should have gotten a better game than what we did get. A game about the Suicide Squad could work, and as I mentioned before, WB Montreal wanted to make a Suicide Squad game after they did Origins. There's plenty to work with as the Suicide Squad, and even if you wanted to do the whole thing where they fight the Justice League, at the very least, we could have gotten a good story behind that, rather than the hateful, bitter, condescending story that we did get. I mean, honestly, I didn't stray too far from the main premise of the game with these rewrites. This is just taking those ideas and doing them in the way that people aren't completely offended by. The fact that WB and Rocksteady couldn't come up with something better than this is frankly just a shame, and it shouldn't have happened. There are plenty of great writers who have worked with DC that they could have used to actually write a good story, but they just didn't. Because frankly, they don't actually care. And they're suffering the consequences with the game bombing so hard. Because frankly, just like other companies like BioWare, this is not the same company that people knew years ago.
Oh, you guys!
If I had a nickel every time they brought Kevin Conroy in to play Batman, that they turned evil, and then brutally killed him off and disrespected him, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's really freaking weird that it happened twice. Like, honestly, Gotham Knights, that dumpster fire of a game, and I don't want to hear anyone going, well, actually, Gotham Knights is pretty good now. No, just because Gotham Knights doesn't screw up as much as this game does not mean it's good. It just happened to respect Batman's death more than this. which is insane because of how bad the story of Gotham Knights is, because it's at best mid. But at least when he died, it was treated as like something that was serious, like it affected people. Like it affected the characters in the game, and his death is like the catalyst for the plot. And then when he's brought back from from the dead with a Lazarus pit, and then he dies again, killing people, but let's not talk about that. Like, at least he's making like a sacrifice for people, so at least there feels like there's some kind of meaning to that. That's more than what this Batman gets. He's disrespected, humiliated, talked down to, and then killed. And like, we've seen stuff like this in like the Batwoman show, where they constantly piss on Bruce, and I'm just sitting there like, what do you guys have against one of your most popular characters? And when people go, oh, why do you care so much? Okay, then why does DC care so much? Right, because if they hate Batman, then stop trying to make money with him. Right, there's a reason why they brought Kevin Conroy into this. There's a reason why they tied Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League to the Arkhamverse. For popularity. Because Batman is insanely popular. Because they clearly care enough about Batman to try to utilize him to make money, while clearly hating him. So I think we are entitled to hate how they're treating his character. Because if they really didn't care, they would just stop trying to make anything with Batman. Stop making Batman movies, stop making Batman games, stop making Batman TV shows, and stop using Batman in any kind of advertising, if you really hate him. They're stuck in this weird middle ground of, we really are obsessed with making money with Batman, but we really hate Batman as a character and think he's this horrible person. And they're just stuck in the middle like, well, we want to make money, but we also want to disrespect him, and we don't want to make money with him, but we also hate him. It's insane. So no, if they care enough about Batman to keep using him to make money, then I think we're entitled to care when they treat Batman so poorly. Especially, I mean, look, there's a reason why I wear this shirt, right? I'm a big Batman fan. Like, I love Batman. And Batman has been around longer than any of us have been alive. This is a character who has endured and has been beloved by generations of people. This idea that we're not allowed to care is absolutely absurd, and it's just one of those things that people use to deflect criticism. Oh, well, you're not allowed to care. I mean, I care that you care, but you're not allowed to care at all. You're just supposed to eat whatever schlop they give you, okay? No, I don't accept that. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a terrible game on pretty much every level. Even if you ignore the lazy and repetitive looter-shooter mechanics, the live service garbage, the story in and of itself, even if it's not meant to be taken too seriously, which, why would you tie it to a narrative-focused single-player series if you didn't want people to care about the story? It's terrible. It treats beloved characters badly, except for Wonder Woman. I'm so sick of them trying to push the Suicide Squad as some, like, major franchise. It's like they really want their own Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, there are like hundreds of just random teams that you could pick in the DC universe. Why do you pick the Suicide Squad? They're not even meant to be this super ultra mega force. Like, the entire point of Task Force X is specifically that you grab a bunch of D-list villains, you throw them into suicide missions for the government, and if they die, who cares? They were just nobodies. And if they succeed, yay! The government's job got done. But now they're trying to push them as like a force that can take on the Justice League, and like they're the contingency if the Justice League goes bad. I'm like, my brother in Christ, what the hell is Harley Quinn gonna do against Superman? And I mean, like, if you did want them to be a major force, then you're gonna have to pick some bigger villains than that. Right, like, you're gonna need, like, okay, Deadshot, alright, he's a good shooter, right? He's a decent pick, but you're gonna need ones like Deathstroke, Metallo, Lady Shiva, like, some actual notable antagonists. If you want them to stand any chance against members of, like, the Justice League, you're gonna need to get big members. But at that point, you're basically just making the Injustice League, not the Suicide Squad. But again, it's just one of the many stupidities of WB and DC, because they have no idea what to do with any of their characters. And like, the thing is that the Suicide Squad has never caught on, no matter how much they've been trying to push it. The first movie was terrible. The second movie I hear was better, but I don't care. This game is terrible, and it is widely hated by most people.
the fuck?
The Suicide Squad is not going to be a thing. Stop trying to make the Suicide Squad a thing. It's never going to be a major franchise. It's never going to rival the Justice League. It's just not. Give it up, DC. Let them be a small thing like they've always been. Gosh, this game frustrated me so much. I just had to talk about it. Okay, I think I've rambled enough about the Suicide Squad game. Because honestly, it's just complete garbage. And I am done with this. So, if you want to support the channel, I've got channel memberships that you can check out down below. You can get benefits to the channel like emotes, previews on upcoming videos, and even uncut versions of videos that I had to edit to get around copyright. You can check out my Patreon or my Subscribe Star where you can support me on either for as low as $1 a month. And you can get most of the benefits that you can get from my memberships, especially previews for upcoming videos and uncut versions of videos that got hit by the copyright bots. So, thank you for watching.